welcome to good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of our Skeptic Haven show, coming to you live from Masjid Al Haram. Today, we are going to talk about all things related to Islam and Islamic Reformation. So, yes, get yourself a snack, get yourself a drink. We've got a panel of exceptional guests who are outspoken about being ex-Muslims and very familiar with that aspect, lined up for you to have a very engaging conversation. Let's get the show on the road. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to this this impromptu panel, so to say. The idea for this show actually has been brewing with me for a very long time, because I've been reflecting on this thing about the evolutions of religion and how religion changes as a chameleon. And this led me into looking into the Christian Reformation and how they sort of like watered it down a little bit to make it a bit more more easily digestible. And this led me to this question: why has Islam not had a reformation? So joining me today, we have got an esteemed panel of guests. We've got Dr. Leo Igwe from the Humanist Association of Nigeria. We've got Veiled Rose from Faithless Hijabi. We've got the OG from Nigeria, the Afro Atheist now living in the UK. We've got Nuriyah Kahn as well joining us. Guys, welcome to this conversation. And I guess, let's just jump straight into a couple of these topics that I have lined up for us. And please feel free to speak up and speak, whenever you want to. We are a bit of a large panel, so just be mindful that we don't overtalk one another. But the first thing I want to talk about is the nature of intolerance. And this kind of intolerance is primarily driven by specific doctrines in Islam. These include things like blasphemy, apostasy, the way that women especially are regulated. Is this intolerance driven by the doctrine, or is it more a feature of how religion operates when it gets fused with political power and a strong communal identity? This is not something that's very unique to Islam, but how do experiences differ across the different regions that we have representative on this panel? Who wants to go first?
I can go first.
Sure.
Can I just say hi to everyone? And coming from a Nigerian perspective, where we have 12 states governed by the Sharia law, you quickly find out that the Sharia practice over there is really suited to them. It's not universal. It's not the same everywhere. It's like made up for the Nigerian Muslim. I have since found out that the way the Nigerian Muslims do Islam is very different to how other regions do Islam. So I think it's a mixture of both the culture and the ideals of the religion. Right, I think it's a mixture of the two.
But it's strange, when we speak of this intolerant aspect of Islam, we can only reflect back on the north of Nigeria and what happens there when somebody just sneezes in the direction of the Prophet or sneezes in the direction of a mosque. All of a sudden it's apocalyptic, the backlash that person faces. And I find this especially concerning because it strikes me as very totalitarian, the way that that this kind of intolerance is, manifests itself in the religion. And, yes, Christianity also had that, many, many moons ago. But Islam just says, hold my beer, not hold my beer, hold my drink.
I would argue that it's inherent in the text. And if anything, Muslims, a lot of Muslims who don't actually know about how violent Islam actually is, they make it seem better and more peaceful than Islam actually is. A lot of the time when I'm speaking to other Muslims, when I tell them about things like the domestic violence in Islam being permissible, they're really shocked because they think it's there's no way, because Muhammad treated his wives really well. I think it is a lot. I think Islam is primarily about political power and political dominance, and I think the issue of the Reformation that you were mentioning, I hope you don't mind, but I think I think Islam has had to reform itself from the beginning, because it has done what it has taken to stay in power. So initially, when Islam came about, when the Quran, after Muhammad died, the Quran was all over the place in people's minds on bits of paper, on bits of parchment or whatever. And Uthman ended up compiling them, bringing all the Quran together and burning a load because all of the different versions were different. And so there was kind of a reformation, constant reformations or compromises from the start to make sure that Islam survives. So, and there's also things like there's this thing that we come across quite a lot as well in the Western countries, where Muslims argue that they have to follow the law of the land. So when they come across verses and Quran verses and Hadiths are so out of whack with what today we would accept, they would be like, well, we have to follow the law of the land, and they try to get away with it from that, and they say about context. But to me, it's textual, and the inhumane sort of like abuse, the humanitarian abuses and stuff like that. Yeah.
It's crazy that you mentioned that, because I distinctly remember hearing there are specific places in the Quran where it says, not even the rocks will hide you. The rocks will snitch you out. So here's a Jew hiding behind me or something. And I mean, like, it's just, it is violence upon bloodbath, upon beheadings, upon, cutting of limbs and everything. And it really creates, especially when, this apparently the text is still, you're speaking about the different versions of the Quran. So we're not even talking about the ones that the goat ate, but we are talking about a book that claims, a very, very special kind of authority, that it is not able to be altered, that it is, fine however many centuries afterwards. And I don't know, for me, I find that something that adapts and changes to situations is more resilient and robust than something that insists on being, unchangeable. Very, very interesting indeed.
I think also, sorry.
Yes, sorry, go for it.
Go on, Nuriyah.
I was just going to say, like, to back both what Veiled Rose and Afro Atheist were saying, that I do think there has been some level of, clearly the intolerance derives, in my opinion, from like the textual sources themselves. So you've got that to deal with on one level, but also, as Afro Atheist was saying, we do see slightly different manifestations of Islam depending on wherever it's kind of, inserted itself, basically. So the Islam practiced in Malaysia is very different from the Islam practiced in Nigeria vis-a-vis the Islam in Pakistan, etc., etc. But fundamentally, I think you have a series of problems when it comes to intolerance and a collective reform, when the ideals behind within Islam are deeply entrenched, such as one Muslim ummah that is kind of the ideological dream, but then we see varying manifestations of it throughout the world. And then we've got all the schools of thoughts that it's broken down into. And obviously we can unpack the reform bit later, but people can argue that it's been reformed in the past and what that looks like, and if that's even beneficial to human society in general. But I do think you're dealing with multiple layers of issues, whether it's the textual sources themselves, whether it's the way Islam is practiced by Muslims around the world, and then the schools of thoughts that you're dealing with on top of that, and trying to make that one collective agenda, which is what Islam essentially yearns to do.
Interesting though about the whole concept of Reformation comes from having both an internal and an external critique. That is the only way that you can get to a place where you can basically look at any kind of reform. So I made a note here that says some Muslims work for a progressive or a reformist Islam from within. So I just want to know from our panel of ex-Muslims here, are these internal movements capable of fundamentally addressing the core rotten issue that we are talking about, or is it inherently limited to the need to remain within the fold, or remain true to the, so as you can say, the original or the true Islam? Is dialogue and collaboration what we need, or or is this counterproductive? What is your opinion on this?
I honestly, sorry, go on, Afro Atheist.
No, I think that with Islam, I think the text is more revered above everything else. And when we're talking about reformation, moving away from the text, because Muslims pride themselves on the Quran being the words of Allah. Right? When I have conversations with Muslims, they say the Quran is Allah speaking. Allah said this and Allah said that. So I feel like if reformation starts to take place, it is going to be catastrophic for a lot of Muslims that regard the Quran as the inherent words of Allah. So I and this is why I feel like this is why Reformation in Islam is a tough. It's going to be tough.
Yeah. It's sorry, Nuriyah, you're also going to weigh in on this.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I've come across reformists of Islam, and I have listened to what they have to say. So I do respect the kind of courage of them pushing for reform within Islam, and I do really respect the sentiment. And those are not the kind of Muslims that people like Veiled Rose and I would have to worry about, because they're not out there to, try and get rid of us in the same way that Orthodox Islam, if you will, or Muslims, or extreme Muslims would want to. But I do think that, for me personally, as an ex-Muslim, when I do come across what they're trying to say and the reform that they're trying to bring about, I just think the internal movements are structurally limited. So it's to stay within the fold, they often have to dilute their critiques or reframe the Islamic problems or questions as misunderstandings, or not to be taken literally as interpretations, or kind of, deliberating on the just the general kind of aspects, whether it's metaphysical, whether things can be absolutely if there's a contradiction, can we take the rational approach as opposed to the literal approach? So I think that dilutes the conversation from actually focusing on the structural issues within the religion itself. So while dialogue between internal reformers and critics like myself and all of us here can be productive on specific issues, for example, like free speech or blasphemy, apostasy laws, things like that, ultimately, in my opinion, reform efforts will struggle unless there's also external pressure for secularism and universal human rights, like a shared understanding of what that actually means.
Yeah, exactly. I just wanted to come in as well. In South Africa, there was the homosexual imam Henry. I can't remember the name. I'm so sorry. Who was assassinated, and to me that sums up the kind of the barriers that even reformers and progressive Muslims face, because they're deemed as kafirs, they're deemed as apostates for daring to go against, they're seen as going against God's word, and yet they really are clinging onto Islam, and trying to make it fit their reality and their way of being. The way I understand it is, Islam, like a lot of all religions, it's like a abusive husband, and it doesn't want to relinquish its power. Sometimes it will, because it's scared and it's worried that people are going to leave it, and at other times it knows it won't. It can get away with a lot more, but at the end of the day it remains abusive throughout, and you can't trust it. And the only way to truly change things is to have an enlightenment and say and face the facts that this patriarch is really regressive and dangerous for us. And yeah, that was my take on it.
Yeah, very interesting. Sorry, forgive me if I'm distracted.
No, that's fine.
I'm trying to do some tech troubleshooting in the background here. We're trying to get Mubarak and Dr. Igwe connected here, so just bear with me as we sort this out. But that's I was listening with one ear. It's very interesting that that all of you have got it's more or less a similar thread that comes across from everybody. So. I was thinking, that there has to be some, some unique barriers that's placed in the way of this move to, or even idea of reforming this bad idea. So if you look at the other, major religions, some of the there are unique challenges when it comes to critiquing Islam, because like you guys have said, the concept of the Quran is the literal uncreated word of God, the fusion of religious and political identity, many contexts, protect blasphemy and apostasy in this context, and this makes a meaningful widespread reformation less likely. I don't see, unless there is a major move to they've rewritten the Bible like hundreds of times. There's so many different versions. You can pick and choose your flavor of Bible that you want to read. But when it comes to the Quran, they don't. What's the big idea here? Maybe you could weigh in on this, Dr. Leo.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. First of all, for me, there's nothing like Islam. Yes. There's nothing like Islam without Muslims. Yeah. There's nothing like Quran without Quranic believers. Because look, take a page, just go through that book. I can tell you that there is no Muslim that says, I obey this to the letter from page 1 to the last. Okay? So if you talk about reforming Islam, for me, reform Muslims and Muslim behavior, what Muslims do in the name of the religion. Look, Quran is just a book. It's just a book. Now, if you ban it, for instance, the book will not come after you. It's Muslims that will come after you. So who needs reformation? Is it the book and what is written on it, or the people who believe in the book? So I think that they have a way of distracting us and making us, look, there's no book. You look at the Quran, you look at the Bible, you look at the Torah, you have terrible, terrible things written there. because they are written by people thousands of years ago. And I can assure you that no Jew or Christian or holds on to letter by letter. They just pick and choose, just what Dean tried to say here, what they want to believe. So if you ask me, don't bother what is written in the book, bother about those who are reading it and using it to justify their actions. Yes, because those things are there. They reflect their time. They reflect the mentality of the people. Look at the Bible itself. Look at the book of Deuteronomy. Kill, maim, destroy. Now, why are Christians not doing that? Because they know that they will go to jail in many of these countries. People will come after them. So for me, going into the book, the people who wrote this book, they are dead. And they'll be, in fact, if they were to listen to it, they will just be laughing and say, these guys, can't you make use of your senses? We wrote this thing for our own age. And you are here today telling us, oh, well, we want to reform. Don't you have your own brain or mind? So what I'm saying there is this. I think we need to focus on, what Muslims are doing in the name of their religion. Yeah. And let them know that, for instance, when you beat a woman and you're telling me, oh, the Quran says, put the person in jail and the Quran will come to bail the person out. Okay? Let the person be punished. Then Allah would come. So for me, let's be bold about this. You kill somebody in the name of blasphemy, put the person in jail. Try the person and put the person in jail. Allah should come and pick the person out. Muhammad should come. After all, he flew in a what do you call it, winged horse, all right? He could not actually fly back, and all that. So I think we need to be a little bit courageous and confront Muslims over their extreme behavior, and stop cracking our heads, what is written in the Quran. They wrote what they wrote at the particular time. It is on us now to ask ourselves, why should we be guided by what is written centuries or millennia ago? And if somebody wants to be guided by that, then we should put the person where the person belongs. Yes. So I think that's the much I want to say on it. Let's focus on Muslim, the people living out these books and traditions, not the book and what is written there, because the book is written at a particular time.
Yeah. And that book is no longer fit for purpose. It's no longer relevant to today. And can I just say, Mubarak Bala is here with us. Oh, wow. Amazing.
Hi, everyone.
Mubarak.
Hi.
Sorry,
good to see you.
I'm having very difficult times with the network.
You. Yes.
So I'm hopping on the mobile phone, but I think it will work. Yes. Yeah.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, you are. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm good.
Yeah.
Who brought the idea that I should leave the laptop and hop on the phone? I think it's best. I've been seated for almost an hour.
Yeah, before we continue with this conversation, we are all dying to hear an update from you, Mubarak. Just take 5 minutes and just tell us an update. Obviously don't disclose anything sensitive or anything like that, but just give us an update. Tell us what's going on with you, and how are you doing? How are you coping? What does freedom taste like? Tell us.
Well, I've been free for quite a bit of a time now. I think I'm even bored because I've been jobless. So I enjoy these kind of meetings. I have been on about 7 or 8 shows now, but it's all foreign. So, and in less than 24 hours, I should be out. I should be out of the country. I'm looking forward to that. I can't see the names very well because it's the mobile phone. Afro Atheist, I know you, Dr. Leah Igwe, yes. Maria, is it Maria? Nuriyah Kahn, I think I know the name, yeah. Nuriyah Kahn. And,
it's a pleasure to meet you, Mubarak.
Yeah,
absolutely
thank you.
Great.
And this is it verified?
Veiled Rose, and also it's a pleasure to meet you, and I'm absolutely in awe.
Okay, that's Atheist
the work you've
Republic.
done.
Yeah. Thank you. So there is nothing specific, I should say, but it's a good ride. Freedom is good. I am enjoying my freedom. and I'm finding things new. I think connecting with the Bluetooth took me almost 30 minutes because gadgets are very new to me. I think my memory has been wiped a lot of things. I broke a phone just to get a SIM card in. Then I realized it's just a pin you put on the side, not from behind. I became very rudimentary, very crude. So, but it's all right. Yeah.
That's good.
Yes.
That's Yeah, I always say like the difficulty that that I've experienced in my life, I use that to fuel the fire, to fuel the fire that I come back with. So I wish great things for you, on this journey forward, because it's first discovering your story. I only learned about your story once you were already incarcerated, but we have a saying. It was actually as the slogan that was chanted here in South Africa during the apartheid years, where they said, an injury to one. I think it comes from George Orwell's book or something, where they say an injury to one is an injury to all. And when we see that people perpetrate injustice upon my people, our people, people who are non-believers, it strikes differently. It strikes differently in the chest. Because we are already such a marginalized minority of the population, that I said to myself, like, find somebody else to bully. Can you not find another person to bully? So we are very glad to have you here. Guys, before we move on with let's raise one or two more issues on this topic of Islamic Reformation. But before we do, if any of you guys want to, have a question for Mubarak specifically, please feel free to go ahead while I line up the next question.
I do have a question for Mubarak. Mubarak, after everything that you have been through, you're still an atheist. That shows a lot of strength. It shows a lot of willpower. To be incarcerated for the time that you were away, and now back to life, not as you know it. Things have changed, everything, but yet you still stand on the side of atheism. So my question to you is, what drives you?
Well, I think my conviction comes from my conscience. You see, I've always thought maybe humanity, as we came to discover ourselves, maybe I thought we weren't orphans. I thought we had a father up in heaven, some good God helping everyone. So my efforts, I thought I was trying to see how that God, because I realized that God wanted to kill maybe 80% of those that He created. Then I realized that all was a lie, all was a ruse, and I realized in I think in my teenage that science is what best fits all these definitions. I was an outlier in the sense that I got both the Islamic education and the Western education, so I got to compare. And by comparing, it meant I got to sieve out the bullshit out of it. And I think once you know, because there are people that would come with questions to me that they want to know. They want to know what really convinced me to be atheist. That they are not sure. They have questions. The first warning I gave them is that if you really want to know, then you should be ready that your life may change forever. Because once you know, you can never unknow. You can never say you don't know again. Because I've realized once I knew, there was no going back. There was no heaven. I realized there was no heaven. There was no God. There are no angels. So it became an eye opener. So it means I cannot go back. Even as I had hardly, I think I think you read it that they converted me back to Islam while in Kahn. So as hard as I could to fake it, to even fake it, I couldn't. And they knew. So those that are wise, the officers knew They said, probably you're just working hard to please us. I said, yes, because I'm your captive. I can't pray, I can't fast, I can't hold that hunger or that thirst for as long as maybe I fear God would judge me because I ate food. I received punishment, yes. I think I drank water during fasting. I received several punishments for drinking water. And I received punishments for taking a morsel of masa. It's a local food. So they converted me, and there was a time my mom came visiting, and they told her, "Yeah, we got him good. He's reforming well, but he's still mingling with Christians, which we are not happy with." So in the jail, there are about 5% or 3% of the population are Christians, and we ran well because they could speak English, so we could talk on intellectual levels. And they were very disappointed. So they told my mom that their eyes in the jail, who are putting eyes on my behavior, that the Reformation, it's called correctional facility, but since it's canon, the correction means it's a Sharia correction. So you're expected to worship the God. Some of them would even ask that, why did you choose atheism? You could have chosen an institution that could really protect you in the country. That you could be protected if you had chosen Christianity. I said, well, yeah, but it's the same delusion. I was very lucky that I actually seeded out Christianity earlier on while I was a student of these comparative religions. There is a South African guy who was my mentor. I thought the guy would convert everyone to Islam. I think that was when I was growing up. I thought he was a very nice guy, and he was saving people from hellfire. So I thought I could work on that, save a lot, save as much as I can. Actually, it's not about belonging to Islam. I just wanted to save people from going to hellfire because there is a God that would burn them in hellfire. That's what I thought. So my own personal conviction is that I think my conscience now led me to atheism when I realized there is no one helping anyone. And in the end, I think there is nothing that will change that. Even if you are to kill me, I would only tell you what would please you. There was several times, actually, not just one time, that they would take me to the mosque to pray. And if I realize you enough, I'll tell you that I'm only praying to please you because there is no God to pray to. So I would join them, who do the yoga. I told them it's just Arab yoga. They copied it from the Indians or maybe the Brahmins or something like that. So I told them I can't actually force myself back. No matter how hard you try, you can. And no matter how so much I got tortured, maybe mentally, physically, I don't think I could, in my own good conscience, convert to any religion. I told them the actual religion that everyone is on is humanism. You could add anything else, but humanism is your first religion, where you have to be empathic to other living things, humans and other animals. This is the best way you could live your life, caring for others and caring for the environment and the planet. This is how best I think I could ever live. There's no way turning back. Thank you.
Excellent.
I've also got a question, if that's all right, Dean. Is that okay?
Yes, go for it. Go for it.
Well, obviously, Mubarak, first of all, I just want to say I'm truly sorry for everything that you've been through, and I tremendously commend you for carrying on the good fight, I would say. So, yeah, it's really easy to sit in Western countries and do the same thing, but from where you are and what you've done and what you've been through, honestly, massive hats off. And I really hope you get out the country in the next 24 hours. As you said, we're all rooting for you. I guess my question would be, in the depths of that despair, sometimes I can imagine it gets extremely mentally challenging, languishing in jail like that. Were there any moments where you thought, you know what, my activism against this ideology of Islam just isn't worth it, and I picked this fight, but I picked it at the wrong place at the wrong time in the wrong country? Or was that never anything that crossed your mind?
Well, I think the only thing I always thought is that I think I got too lucky. Probably there is a goddess somewhere looking over me. So I always felt, how come I didn't die? Because I thought I'd die in my 20s. I didn't die. I took the biggest risks I took were in my 20s. Then in my 30s, I took bigger risks. Then in my 40s now, I will take even bigger risks. because I said I'm only exiling myself for a while, and it's about education, furthering my education. But I'll still come back to Nigeria. This is my vow. I'll come back to Nigeria. So I'm taking it a notch higher. I'll venture into politics. I'll vie for the office of the president. This should be half a decade or more. 5 years. 5 years is a long time. Actually, it's a very short time because I've been almost 5 years in jail, and I think I just skipped 5 years. I was just 35, then I just woke up to see myself at 40. And because you don't have mirrors in jail, you don't really see yourself. Then now that I came out, people are telling me you have gray hair all over. I told them it could be stress, and in Africa we call it wisdom. It means you are wiser. So when you're running for president and you get the gray hairs, it means you are qualified. I read that with all those. So I'm not too young to run. So actually, I think I'm taking more risks. I hope I don't die, but I've already given up. Like in my teenage years, this is when I was actually swinging from faith to faithlessness. I thought I wasn't sure because I felt I can't be right, that all these older men are wrong. So my fear was that if I now told people that the Quran is not always right, I didn't even conclude that the Quran was wrong. I said at some point I realized they were wrong on some things. And when I tried to reason, and this is in my teenage, they called me the controversial Mubarak Bala or the liar Mubarak Bala. This was secondary school. And this we call it secondary school, you may call it is it high school? Yes, high school. So
Yeah.
in my secondary school, my father actually enrolled me in an all Muslim primary school and all Muslim secondary school. I was supposed to go to International Islamic University Malaysia, where it is an all Muslim student. So it's a school that will teach you science, will teach you all the things you need to know. But why exclude non-Muslims? So it's exclusively to groom you in a way that you don't really mingle with non-Muslims or non-tribal people. So I've always known my friends have always been from childhood. My friends have always been Muslims. This is why it hit so hard when I left the religion because all my friends left me, all relatives I gave up. They were heartbroken, obviously. So it hits hard because you really didn't have much of a friends or much of a society or community to fall to because the whole life you left behind is what memories you have had. So this is the secondary school, the primary school. So during those years, I think I have already thought of these things, and I only concluded that probably I may end up losing my life, or I may end up not marrying from my tribe or my culture. So it's later that it's especially this fear that you'd lose all your friends. It was later I realized I think that by leaving behind that life, this is when I got exposed to even know more people. And I could tell you that I didn't know how to even speak English until I think after the secondary school. I could read English, I could comprehend it. I don't have the confidence, and I don't think I had the maybe we actually thought Western education is really bad. We were just taken there because they wanted Muslim children to know the tactics of the evil non-Muslims, so that we learn it. If you're a medical doctor, you are representing Islam. If you're in the army, you are representing Islam. If wherever, let me be a journalist, but I'm representing Islam. This is why you have to carry the Hamas flag or maybe the veil. All those things, you're supposed to just be sympathetic to the Islamic cause, even if the villains are really Islamists, or I'd say Muslims. I don't want to sound Islamophobic, but really, really, there is a problem with the religion. There is a big problem with the religion. And Muslims have a problem. We have a problem with Muslims. We have a problem with Islamists. The bigger problem is with the Islamists, obviously. But I hope that we create this word called Muslimophobia. This is what is supposed to be avoided. Muslimophobia, hating Muslims or disparaging Muslims or being bigoted against Muslims. My mother is a Muslim. My siblings are Muslims. My relatives are Muslims. I still try as much as I can to maintain good relationship with the Muslim community, not the Islamist community. These are just one step behind the terrorists. So these are the ones that actually would want you dead, but they would prefer they set the stage that you end up dead, just like my abduction and my incarceration is orchestrated by the Islamists. It's not terrorists. Terrorists will just kill you. The Islamists would create the stage that maybe the mob would kill you. So this is how it happened. I became an outlier early in my life because I got to know both sides of the cultures, the Islamic culture and the Western culture, and I got to compare and see where it led me to since my teenage years, actually. But I didn't have the confidence until when I reached my 20s. That's when I had the confidence.
Yeah. You know, this it's funny that you talk about this concept of Islamophobia. You know, whenever a Muslim is criticized, immediately you hear Islamophobia, Islamophobia. Well, first of all, you know, let's talk about definitions here. A phobia is an irrational fear. You are rational to have a fear of Islam, in my opinion. It's a rational fear. There's nothing that that fringes on a phobia. And you know, at this stage, you know, we're running very close to the end of our show. I would just like to put the word out there. If any of our viewers have questions for the panel, or if you just want to hit your support in the chat, just type it up in the chat, and Alma, who's monitoring the chat, will highlight your question for us. So let's first of all take this question by Heinz. It's an interesting question. Is when and how did Islam drop the ball? What we call Western civilization owes Islamic learning for keeping ancient learning alive and expanding it, but not anymore. So where did it go wrong? Where did the train of Islam leave the tracks? That's an interesting question. I have no idea, to be very honest with you. It's not my wheelhouse.
Can I say something about this?
Yeah, sure.
So I wouldn't say I know particularly when Islam dropped the ball, but for me it's when you have a religion that is set on dominating the world, right? You're set on taking the religion from one small part to the rest of the world. Now, the trouble with that is the further you go away from the source, the more diluted that religion becomes, and the more people centered and culture centered, and it just it changes form, it changes dynamic. Now, I would say if the people in Mecca came over to Nigeria and see how some Muslims did Islam over there, they would quickly say these are not real Muslims, right? For example, it was only when I got on YouTube that found out that Muslims cannot, music is prohibited. Muslims, they sing whole songs, they dance, I mean, I'm talking about like the Yoruba Muslims. So in a bid to try and take this religion all over the world, right? You it loses its what's the word I'm looking for? It loses its um I need a word, right? Loses, that's the solidity
The
of the
pristine,
religion.
the
Its
pristine
strength.
condition that it used to be.
Huh?
You
It
want to say
loses
the
its strength.
pristine condition?
Exactly. So this is what I think, that they dropped the ball the moment they decided, let's make this everybody else's religion, even though it was a religion that was centered around the Arab people, right? And yeah, I don't see how they can get everyone believing the same thing. It's rather impossible.
Okay, let me
Yeah,
just add something to that.
I don't think that I don't think they said let's make it everybody's religion. They said let's make it everybody's religion by force. I mean, we need to qualify these things. Yes. If you don't qualify it, you are not speaking to us. It's by force.
That's
Because
true.
because look, human beings espouses different philosophies. There are a lot of religions out there, a lot of ideas out there, but
Mm.
Islam comes with this force and violence. Some years ago I was a bit shocked by the fact that they told me you can convert to Islam, but you cannot leave. I said, what kind of religion is this? I was
Mm.
shocked. You can embrace Islam, but you cannot deconvert. And I'm like, and they tell me there is freedom of religion in Islam. I said, there is none. It's like, it twists their understanding even of what is freedom of religion. How can you say there's freedom of religion when somebody cannot renounce the religion? There is none. And when we present this religion, we should present it as Muslims present it. That's why I said, don't be telling me what is written in the Quran. Let me tell you, what is written in page 1 contradicts what is written in page 2, page 3. If you start reading it critically, you cannot have a coherent message. Let's look at what Muslims are telling us about this. So I just wanted to say, let's present Islam the way it is being presented by Muslims. It is the religion for everybody by force. Yes.
It's totalitarian.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Let me add something to that. You see, the doctrine explains to the gullible minds, like in the younger Mubarak, that this planet was made by the God Allah. And he decided to create little human beings and genies, meaning what do you call them? The demons. That's the al-Jinn, and the angels.
Yeah.
Jinns, exactly. So Allah decided to create all these creatures and place them around the planet Earth. Actually, it's a flat planet. So now that is a land belonging to someone called Allah, and he has mandated that whoever is on this land should practice Islam and worship. So now it doesn't matter to a cleric living in Nigeria whether you are a Christian living in Lagos or you are an animist worshiping the stones in the villages, let's say in Plateau State. They don't care. The planet belongs to God, their God, Allah. And this Allah has already mandated that you must belong to his religion, which is Islam. And so they don't care. And the doctrine says you belong or you will get killed. There is a criteria. They will preach to you. If you don't belong, then you pay the jizya, which is the tax. After the tax, if you don't do that, then your property and your life is now belonging to the Muslims for looting and for raping. If you have rapeable daughters, like a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old, and everyone else is slave, including yourself. So it's a hadith and it's in the Quran, it's there. And the word of God is at the top. This is Islam talking. That's Allah talking. This religion will be on top of every religion. And the non-believers will not have any say. They cannot do anything against it. So the belief, this absolute belief that the planet belongs to Prophet Muhammad, it was made for Prophet Muhammad, and he has dictated who you should worship. It means you are just living on a rented planet, and the father of that planet, the maker, has dictated what you are supposed to do. This is why they feel that they can take over Lagos, take over Port Harcourt, take over Germany, take over France, that they have to spread. They just realized that they didn't spread enough 2 centuries ago, while when the white people 4 centuries ago were spreading around the planet. So they are doing it currently now. This is why you see them trying to emigrate everywhere and create the noise and all these street threats that you receive. That the planet, actually they don't see the Germans as Germans, that you can belong to Germany or you can belong to England, but the planet belongs to Allah. So it's Allah's planet. So they'll just come over and take over the resources, Allah's resources. The water on the planet, they said, is the rizq, meaning the property of the Prophet. So you have, my own people are the most deluded, if you don't know. This is what I wanted to add to you, Afro Atheist, what you said. Actually, I am more concerned with the geography. The more landlocked you are away from the oceans, this is how the delusion got so strong in you. I realized this when I consider Afghanistan and northern Nigeria. This is because we are so landlocked, and the British, when they came, instead of them to colonize as the French were doing, actually in like maybe mingling well with the people there, the British employed a tactic called indirect rule. They allow you to rule your people, the traditional rulers. All they want is just your taxation and remittance. The only thing they will tell you is that no slavery, no capital punishment, no this, no that. And this is why in Nigeria's context, I have a documentary. I wasn't allowed pen and paper to write. So I wrote a documentary in my head, which I would later in maybe this year start downloading it and write.
Fantastic.
The documentary is about Nigeria, about how prehistoric Nigeria and pre-colonial Nigeria and then colonial Nigeria and the military rule in Nigeria, how the clerics were, let's say, how they were like pushing forward to the front to take over power, then they would be pushed back. When they have the opportunity, when they see democracy, they have the mouth to talk again, then they will come back. Then maybe some military man will push them back. It has been happening. The Islam Osman Caliphate came in 1804, took over vast regions of the Sahel and West Africa, which is now about 5 countries now, over the centuries. It took about a century. Then the British came and brushed it away. But the problem now is that I told you this indirect truth. So they haven't really quashed that mentality that religion must dominate others. There were slave raids into the plateau, into the Benue. This is still happening even now. They call it now cattle rustling or cattle maybe encroachment, but it was slavery earlier, a century ago. They would just take their horses, they would enter into maybe the non-dressed people who don't wear clothing, and they just call them the fauna of the forest. They just come and catch them, and they take them to the cities and sell on auction. Then and sometimes sell to the Arabs or to the British. This is what they've been doing. So they were doing this for centuries. Then the British came and told them that this slavery must stop, this raid must stop. So they haven't really gotten that into their head. This is why they will just raid any non-Muslim community and kill. A week ago on Easter, someone just drove his truck to crush worshippers, to crush Easter celebrants on the road in Gombe State. The moment I saw it, although I don't have much of a recent memory, I said, I think I had something like this before. Then I Googled it. Then I saw that it happened in 2024, it happened in 2019, it happened in the same state. It happened like 5 times over the years, and they're still calling it an accident. Someone will just drive a large lorry into a procession of Christians in the same Gombe state. Then you now know that this is not an accident. It happened in Germany, I think, during Christmas. Someone did the same thing. So you see that so many tactics to do all these things. But what I understand is that the northern Nigerian populace are so mad with this religion that there has to be someone to tell them what to do and how to live their lives. You can make paradise without actually hurting or hating or killing someone. And I think no one would be able to tell them, but a person like myself, this is why I have to come back. So there's also the geographical aspect of it. That's why Somalia, Afghanistan, and northern Nigeria are still in this dead zone. We are so landlocked. Even though Somalia has the ocean, no one comes there to fish or no one comes there to mingle with them. I think this is why they are so backward. And I think these are the most dangerous. The Sahel region now is the most dangerous axis. The only lucky streak we have around here, or I should call it the unlucky streak, that the West would not pay attention to it is because we don't export terror. You know, the Taliban could export terror through Al Qaeda into New York. Somalis could export terror through Yemen and into the West. But our people are so uninformed and so unintelligent and so unschooled that the only terror they could inflict is on the local populace. And so the United Nations wouldn't know, the media wouldn't know, while they are just paying attention to Sudan, Gaza, and and maybe India, other countries. So it's mostly unreported. This is why I have to release the documentary. It's unreported. There is massacres and there are killings, and there is a planned genocide by my people on other tribes, and it's happening. It has happened for centuries, and it's still happening now. So the solution would be probably to give Nigerians the option of a referendum if they really want to live with someone that comes to publicly the media to announce that they have to kill so person, and no government would intervene and they would kill that person. In my own case, I got lucky, I didn't die, but they have announced several times on so many people, and these people ended up dead. So the killings have to stop, and we have to bring it to the fore. We have to bring it to the world, what is really happening to Nigeria. And the Sahel region, as I told you, is the most dangerous region now in the world, the most dangerous, worse than what is happening in Gaza. although Gaza is self-inflicted. They chose that jihad. They were celebrating that. So even though you would pity the children and the civilians, but I think it's something that I always question. Why would you celebrate something to start with? You celebrated it when the Hamas guys were attacking Israel, and now you're crying because these are two delusional books. The Quran is fighting the Torah. Is it the Old Testament? And now the Old Testament is fighting back. And both of these books are telling each other to kill each other, kill their children, kill their wives. This is what is happening in the Torah. This is what is happening in the Bible. Maybe I don't know much of the Bible, but the Old Testament is about killing and raping, and now the Quran. So a Jew may be gingered by his holy book to go and kill, and a Muslim would be gingered by his holy book to also go and rape and kill. So if they were really human, just human, they wouldn't have that bloodthirst for each other. So it's regrettable. So somebody should say something.
Yeah, this is a very interesting. You cannot ignore it. There is such a clear link to extremism within that religion. Whether you want to call it direct, whether you want to call it causal, but the line between mainstream and conservative interpretations, only leads to this. It always points to this violent extremism. And you know what? And a lot of people will say, no, but that's a perversion of Islam. And, I think it's a logical conclusion. It's a logical conclusion. If you only have this, kill the infidel, the unbeliever is kuffar, and if you have all of this constantly repeated to you, it's going to start, can you blame people when this is all that they hear? It's a very, very sad state, but there's no way that anybody can ignore that there is an extremist side to that religion. And I don't know how we are ever going to get rid of it without getting rid of the religion itself, because you can even look at, people, it takes a couple of generations for people to change, and sometimes it happens overnight in a generation. Sometimes it takes a few generations. But if you strip bad ideas away, then, it leaves room for people to grow into new ideas. And you also have a fertile soil where you can sow other seeds like humanism, secularism, equality, recognition of women as equal citizens, for example. That would be a very good seed to sow in the fields of Islam. But yeah, I don't know. Sometimes I feel very hopeless. So I think what I want to
can I say something quickly?
Sure.
So just very quickly, I think with reformation of Islam in our part of the world, it's going to be really hard because this religion allows the men to have 4 wives. It allows them to, they can change, and allows them to have these concubines. I mean, I know Muslims in Nigeria that have 6, 7 wives, right? There was one time one of the senators in Nigeria, Senator Yerima, he was going to marry himself a 12 or 13-year-old bride from what's it called, Egypt. Yeah, from Egypt. And they said, how can you, a lawmaker, be, wanting to marry a child? And he said, wait, I'm a Muslim. My religion allows me to do this. It says, if you can find anything in my religion that says I cannot marry this girl, right? If you can find anything in the Quran that says I cannot marry this girl, then I will not go ahead with the marriage. And of course, they cannot find anything. So yeah, he went ahead and married his child bride. But I think a lot of people hide behind the religion to be promiscuous, to be, just a man after
Abusive.
all. Exactly. So that is going to be a huge struggle.
Expansion.
Yes, there is something I want to add to that. I think there is even an encouraging verse in the doctrine that says, when poverty strikes you, take another wife. because the superstition came that a woman would actually bring you bad luck. So you may, this is, I don't know if it's widespread, but it's very rampant in Hausa land. This is northern Nigeria. That if you are so much in poverty, in struggle, then take an extra wife, because probably the first wife you have has a white leg. What they call white leg is that she came with a bad luck. She's a hoodoo. She brought bad luck to you, so you have to take a wife that would open up your resources back. So it's a superstition, and actually, I think, especially since we are the poverty capital of the world, then you now see a link to that. Some people even came to try to explain it, that what it actually meant. The clergy now trying to make sense of it. They said what the prophet actually meant is that what he wanted is so that when you take an extra wife, you have extra responsibilities. So now you have to work harder, meaning you've not been working hard with your wife and 4 children. Now with that extra wife, you work harder to provide for that new wife with her other 4 children. So it happened like that. You see, this past Eid, I went home to Kano State. I've been going to Kano. I went to Kano 3 times. I had to, I must. They said they would kill me. I said I have to come. It's my hometown. So when I went home, I took Amina and Sodengi, my son, along. They wouldn't come the first and the second time. So the third time, now they send them out safe for 2 times. So they allowed the third time. They joined. When we went there, so I was taking her around the extended family to greet them and so that they would meet my son. And when she asked how many family members I had, because she'd seen so many cousins, then my uncle told her that our grandfather, the maternal grandfather, left behind 34 children. 34 children. And those children have also given, yes, 34. And I think I have about 100. From my mom's side alone, I have over 150 cousins from my mom's side alone. And from my dad's side, I could remember in 1997 when I lost my paternal grandpa, we counted 102 grandchildren. That was 1997. And there are so many other extra wives that came into the families through his children. He had 12. So now I think I could just say maybe from my cousins and maybe paternal and maternal, I could count about maybe 1,000 if I were to extend it to half cousins and this and that, maybe 1,000. So you see, this is how it happens. And I think the only educated out of these 1,000, the only educated ones are those that came from my own home, those that could speak English. So it's regrettable. I could remember vividly when my grandfather actually, my father allowed my mom, the man has to allow the woman to go to school. So my mom, she married at 13, I think. She married my father at 13 while he was 17. And so my mom enrolled in school after having me as the 3rd child and the 4th daughter. My mom has 9 children. So after having me and my sister, my mom decided to enroll back in school. I was about 5, 7, but I could remember vividly. My dad allowed it. Then my grandfather, her own dad, had that she went back to school for education. She has never attended a primary school nor a secondary school. So he came to the house. He asked if it was true that she joined the infidel school. And she said yes. So he asked her to leave the school. This is even a vocational training school, that she should leave that school. This is in the 1990s, early 1990s. So, and he asked her what she wanted in life. She told him she wanted to learn how to sew clothes. Then he went and bought a sewing machine made in England. I could remember it vividly. It's a sewing machine. This normal machine that tailors use manually. I even knew how to ride it. So it was made in England. So he had no problem buying the technology from the infidels to give his daughter so that she would leave school. In 2003. So I told people that this Boko Haram, you see, is not just about the violence. It's innate in us that it's against Islam. It's against the religion. So of these 34 children that he had never allowed any to enroll in school. He's the most senior uncle that only got to enroll by himself, decide for himself. And because this is a reason. why I survived this long, why my family could not really kill me. One is the internet, because I've already outed myself early on. And second is because I'm male. I would never have left Kano State if I was a female. I would never have left my family. There is no power that would have stopped my family from taking me back. From a decade ago, that they took me to that psychiatric hospital. Had it been I was a female, I would never have been allowed to leave home, because you bring another dishonor and shame and bring children that are illegitimate. So it happens that I'm male, and it also happens that I had the internet. It's only the internet that saved me. Maybe the third reason is the tribal connection. If I was an Igbo man, they would definitely kill me. So the moment I was abducted by the police in 2020, the first question that they asked is, are you a Hausa man? And I chose to speak the Hausa language. So the moment they heard that I could speak Hausa, it disarmed them, and the hatred and the frowning of the faces now slacked a bit, because now I belong to the same tribe. So tribalism actually helps. Yeah, I could remember the story of the prophet. Those that are ex-Muslims, they know that the prophet lived as a prophet among the Meccans for 13 years. He intermarried with them, he lived with them, he did business with them, and he traded with them in all the commercial activities, which means if you have the tribe, if you have the blood, yeah, you have some sort of protection for a while. Until I think when he exiled himself and they started fighting, that's when the murder started. So I think tribal something actually saves people. And I think this is why they kill Christians from the central region in Nigeria, because they are not of the same tribe as us. And the hatred is already right. They show you that these are subhumans, these are not really humans. So I was just at a pharmacy to get some drugs, and this is when I decided, because I've lived there for 9 months, they don't really know me for about 7, 8 months. They don't really know me. So we were exchanging numbers. I told them I may travel, you may not be seeing me again for a while. I'm going to school, this and that. This is when they now realized I'm not a Muslim. And they were shocked. They said, no wonder you're so nice. No wonder you embraced us, even though we're non-Muslims. I said, oh, actually, that they have never seen a Hausa man this gentle or this embracing. Then they said, so now that you are not a Muslim, what are you? Why are you not a Muslim? Are you a Christian? I said, no, I'm not. Then I said, they asked what I am, and I told them I'm a humanist. They don't really have a grasp of that. So the only thing I could explain to them is that they said, you have to have a religion. I said, that's the religion. And this is also your religion, being human, treating humans as what I would want you to treat with me. So I think it inspired them in a bit. And I told them, if we're alive, if I'm healthy enough, and if I have the resources, I'll come back in 5 years to run a presidential election. And they just started gingering, yes, we will join the trade. This is how we parted. So you see, humanism, I think we could do a lot with humanism in Nigeria.
Yeah.
If people understand that we're only one tribe, we're only one race, we are human, the mosquito would not discriminate from any one of us if they want to bite. And when the poverty, we are all in our world, the poverty capital of the world, and it's regrettable. So this is how life is around here. Come back. So I could fight for the greater good. This is what I'm fighting for. Someone could take it on.
Amazing. So, everything that Mubarak said resonates with me on such a deep level. I'm not sure if you guys all, I see great things in this man's future. I'm just telling you, I see great things,
Yeah.
and I wish he runs for president, because he'll shake up
in 5 years. Listen, I will run to Nigeria and go and find a voter's card so I can vote for him.
Right. So just a bit of housekeeping, guys. Don't forget to check out our other shows on Skeptic Haven. Mondays we have the Black Free Thinkers. On Saturday, the Global Atheists, which is this show that you're watching now, 30 and 60, and Women Atheists Unload. And Let's Talk on Sundays. I would also like to thank our patrons. We have Paul Kamish, Corin Butcher, Hals Bells, Logan Fisher, Amanda McLeod, Tara S., Rion, D. Murphy, Dan D., Michael Wiseman, Sunny Shell, Phil Calderon, and our members include Cynthia McDonald, Kelly Laughlin, Logan Fisher, and tons of mice. As always, guys, let's, I just want to get, if any of you guys have 2 minutes to wrap up, if you have any ideas on what we've discussed, please feel free. Let's start with Dr. Leo, then we do Afro, then Nuriyah, and then we end with Veiled Rose.
Yeah, well, one thing I want to say about reforming a religion, reforming Islam, is we need to start telling the world the truth about Islam. Yeah. Oh, there's a holy book. What makes the book holy? This book, who wrote it? Where did they copy it from? So I think there's a need for us to begin to say, oh, what's the truth about this religion? There was a prophet. Who made this person a prophet? There was a messenger. Who sent the person? At what time? So there's a need for us. Reformation must be driven by truth and facts, and as long as we continue to shield Islam or religious propositions from this kind of scrutiny, we are indirectly perpetuating the extremist ideas. So, yes, okay, it's been existing all the while. Who wrote this book? What are their names? Okay, we don't know them. When did they live? And all that. So I think that reformation will not be effective unless we begin to tell ourselves the truth about religion, about its history and the character. And the same thing applies to Islam.
Yeah. Amazing. Afro.
Yeah, for me, I would say that we, each and every one of us is very vital to this work. I appreciate Nuriyah. I appreciate Veiled Rose, Mubarak, Dr. Leo, Dean. The work that everyone's doing is very, very important, and we have to keep on talking about it. We have to keep on creating platforms where we challenge these ideals, and it's ongoing, but along the line, people are listening, people are catching on, and people are, starting to be aware of the harm, the danger, and, the poison that this religion, continues to inflict on our people. How is it that in Nigeria, over 53% of the population is Muslim, yet Nigeria is the poverty capital of the world? That math is not mathing. So we need more and more people speaking up. We need more and more people showing up. So yeah, but thank you each and every one of you who is already out there doing your thing. Thank you.
Okay, let me add one thing, please. I think the world is lucky. The world is lucky that not all Muslims follow Islam. The world is lucky that not all Muslims choose to obey Islam. If all the Muslims chose to obey Islam, you would have a whole wide world with 1 billion or more people that actually want to wage jihad, that are actively waging jihad, or that actually, this dawla they want to bring back. This is what they had wanted all along. The worldwide connected Islamic empire, Islamic caliphate. It's actually the terror, the mother of all terror. All these things that you see that scare people about Islam, it's not like it's not a lie against Islam, and it's not an Islamophobia. The doctrine is full of these hatreds and these calls to murder, calls to rape, calls to slavery, calls to maiming, hating, killing, maiming, all these things. There was a time I mentioned to someone very close to me when they pled with me that I must come back to the religion. Then I asked them, I showed them a beheading video of Boko Haram. They beheaded a young girl. I think this was the final cut I ever had with Islam. This is when I cut completely from Islam. They beheaded a Christian lady. She was crying, she was begging, and they beheaded her with a knife, speaking the Hausa language, dressed in the Hausa attire. This is what I can never forget. So now I showed this individual this video, and I asked that, don't you think this is inhuman? The person now wailed and flailed and, expressed the sympathy that they are evil, they are this, they are that. Then I quoted a specific verse. I said, okay. And I think I quoted even a hadith for him that we all knew when we were growing up. He knew Umirtu an uqatila an-nasa hatta yashhadu an la ilaha illallah, this one, that one. So I don't need to translate for him, but I'll translate for you. I didn't need to translate it to him because he knew the meaning. And I think this was the end of our discussion with him. He stopped talking to me. We've never spoken since then because he's realized that it was true and this is what is required of him as a Muslim. But because he really wanted to make paradise, he realized he has to cut off relationship with me because he'd rather side with these killings and the God that will order such killings than side with Mubarak and end up in hellfire. And so the meaning of this is, in no military, this is the prophet speaking, or allegedly, because they will now tell you if it's so obvious that it's about killings or hatred, they say the prophet didn't mean that maybe it was a fake hadith or fake verse or this or that. So it says, the prophet is saying, I was commanded by Allah to wage war on all mankind, to kill all mankind, or wage jihad on all mankind, until they accept Islam as the only religion, as the only way out for them. If they do that, then they are safe from me, from my terror, from my rage, from my anger, from my jihad. And it was narrated that he held his spear and he said they are saved from the edge of this my spear. And if they are not, then their blood is legal for me to spill. And if they are not, then their wives and their children are legitimate targets for me to enslave, rape, and sell into slavery. Then you now just connected with Boko Haram in 2014 when they took the Chibok girls. This was the biggest shocker to the world back then. Now it's very common now because when an atrocity is committed, the whole world will express the shock. But when it's done repeatedly, it's no longer shocking to anyone. Now they just take girls in Katsina State, in Borno, and nobody even pays attention because now they're taking girls so much and married women so much, and nobody even could keep count. So if everybody have decided to forget them, they are in the bushes being raped. I've seen in prison people coming in with these kind of rape. They are Fulani bandits. They came with the cases and they left me in jail. They leave Boko Haram terrorists leave jail because they are reformed. They have taken the vow that they will not kill again. They will not join the jihad again, and they are reformed. Just Google it. You read that 300 or about 300,000 reformed terrorists have been released back into society. So, but a person like me would still be serving 40 years in jail. So what I'm trying to drive at is that we all are lucky, Homo sapiens, are all lucky that the Muslims chose to either ignore the main pillar of the religion. They would tell you the 5 pillars of Islam are the Shahada and the prayer and the fasting and this and that. Then the main pillar that the Prophet said that his religion revolves around is the jihad. And they chose to ignore that. And they have now maybe watered down the jihad to mean that it's your own personal self-struggle. But the moment a small jihad is waged, you see them gingering. If it's in Sudan, they will ginger it. If it's in the West, they will be happy. If it's killing Jews, they will be very happy. Excellent. That's what unites them. So even the Muslims that are not supposed to really wage the jihad, if they see the jihad going on somewhere in Kashmir here and there, then they'll be very happy and they are happy about it. So the reformation has to also happen not just with the doctrine, but with the behavior of the Muslims. You cannot be pleased with the acts of your religion while you don't want to practice it. You thought you would just pray and make heaven, but then in reality you really want all the aspects of the religion to be meted on non-Muslims. I got lucky several times. I hope I get lucky again because they told me if I demanded for food or water, This was even in the police headquarters. They told me, you that are supposed to die, you didn't die, you're lucky. And now you're even asking for food or this or that. And that's why I never took to hunger strike, because I knew they would want it, they would welcome it. And whenever they offered the prayer that I must join in prayer, I joined, because they are looking for any excuse that I would end up dead. And they just write the paperwork and they report that I was too strong-headed to obey rules or regulations. So I tried as much as possible to just flow with the tide and get out safely, which I did. This is why the moment I saw a judge 24 months after my first incarceration, I pled guilty immediately, because treating the case in that court would burn up Kano State. They would kill Christians. They would look for not just Kano State, all over the north. You see, if they see a cartoon in France, they go out to kill Christians in Kaduna State or in Kano State. This is my people's behavior. So if it were to be read in the court and I were to defend myself that the Prophet did this or Islam said this or this or that, they know it did, but it would hurt them, and then they would go out to kill people and it would still be heaped on me. So I thought best is just to plead guilty, and the police also advised, my keepers also advised that if you confront and you ginger this and it reaches the media, you are risking not just your life but our lives, and this prison will be broken and we will all be killed. So there was no fighting it. There is no way anyone could fight it. It's not by lawyers. It's not by no one could. No one could. I was only imagining in my bed that probably a helicopter, a chopper, could come and pick me up. But this is just pipe dream. But I really thought that was the end of my life.
Yeah. Wow. I mean, I could sit and listen to you for. I'm sure you have got stories to tell for days from your experience, and you definitely need to get this out there, because it's gripping and it's authentic and it is human, and that's what I love about these kind of interactions, because the world is so quick to strip us of our humanity and dip us into this fake world of commercialized being, or religious thinking, or whatever, but these conversations that we're having now is what I really love doing, because it's authentic and you really get to experience people and to connect with them on a level where you literally put yourself in their shoes by listening to them. And I really love doing this. In closing, Nuriyah, and then Veiled Rose, and then we are going to wrap the show up. Thank you very much, guys. Nuriyah. Are you frozen, Nuriyah? Am I frozen?
No, I think it's just Nuriyah that's frozen.
Yeah,
okay, Veiled Rose.
Oh, hi. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, you're back. You're back. Sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, I just want to say thank you so much to Dean for putting this together. Obviously, I imagine it couldn't have been easy. And also thank you to all the panelists. It's been really interesting to hear, obviously, the Nigerian kind of experience of Islam. And I've come across things today which I've never heard of before, which are clearly unique to the way Islam has manifested in Nigeria, and things that people kind of come out with from scripture or emulating the prophet to justify their actions. So yeah, it's quite disheartening, but it was very interesting nonetheless. I guess my point, just to wrap up on reform, would be that in my personal opinion, when I speak to or come across reformists, what I'm seeing is that it takes a lot of kind of twisting and stretching of centuries old traditions to fit into our modern perception of, human rights, morality, and things like that. So while I see reform efforts within Islam as no, I do really because it's the tension between modern values and traditional doctrines, which Islam is adamant to keep intact, becomes too great to reconcile without some level of intellectual dishonesty or cognitive dissonance. So I think so long as you've got the divinity of the Quran and the authority of Muhammad as being the red line and unquestionable, when it's going to be near to impossible to have something akin to the European Enlightenment when it comes to Islam. But having said that, conversations like the one we have today, and with the younger generation kind of leaning more towards questioning the power of the internet, and you and I all sat here today, does give me a glimmer of hope that, if Christianity took about 2,000 years to get to a point where we see it today, then I think maybe there is some room for Islam to get to that point. Maybe not in our lifetimes, but one day. But yeah, other than that, thank you so much. I'll hand over to Veiled Rose.
Thank you. I have to say I am really honoured to be here, and I'm really grateful to be here and to be invited. And I wanted to. There's not enough time to ask this question properly, but Mubarak, one day if you could do a short video on what advice you would give your younger self and other people like yourself who are the younger generation of Mubarak Ballas coming up. To me, Islam can't be reformed. It's like asking a lion to turn vegan. It just can't happen. And I think Christianity has shown us as well that even though Christianity has been reformed, it's still quite deadly and still quite vicious. When you look at the abortion laws in the States and things like that, and how it has left women dead because doctors haven't been able to operate. Yeah, for me, it's the Enlightenment. It's about honest, open, unapologetic criticism and exposing of these religious doctrines, and saying that we aren't the disrespectful ones. It's the religious doctrines, it's the religious people, the religious institutions who are the inhumane, disrespectful ones. We are the ones with compassion and love and with respect. And we are not going to be gaslighted anymore. And we are building our own communities, our own networks to support one another, because for centuries and decades and millennia we have been persecuted and we've had enough. And the internet is one of the greatest powers we have to actually bring that voice together. So hopefully I haven't rambled, but I think that's what I've got to say. And thank you all. And Mubarak Bala, I think you're amazing.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Also, I would like to add that even if they can't, I always advise Muslims that I know you don't have an individual power to edit or to reform Islam doctrinally. No one could touch the book now. No, you wouldn't touch the book as a non-Muslim. They couldn't even touch the doctrine as Muslims. The clergy are also afraid the moment you decide to criticize, you are thrown out of the clerical circle. So, but I think Muslims can reform Islam by themselves, about their behavior. By condemning terror, by condemning the jihad, I think it's a step forward, but it shouldn't just be a political statement by big leaders in the Arab world or this or that. Individuals at the grassroots level, for example, let me tell you that they would just post, for example, on the BBC News that the Pope is dead. This is, let's say, the Hausa channel of the BBC. The Pope is dead. If you see the vile and the hatred that would be piled on the Pope, who they have never met and they would never have known, and you just wonder what kind of humans these are. This is the local language, this is the Hausa language. And so there are a lot of vile that Muslims would have if they have that protection of the language barrier that the world would not see. For example, I know everyone in northern Nigeria benefited from the Bill Gates Foundation. We have benefited a lot through the vaccines and this and that, and probably by convincing Aliko Dangote to be doling out food rations. I took those Dangote rations in jail for 2 years. So he fed the Hausa people for about, since the COVID-19 days, about 5 years, he's been feeding those people. So, but for example, if he were to die, or let's say Bill Gates were to be announced dead, you'd see the vile. They wouldn't care. So the hatred is there. The doctrine has already impacted so much on our psyche that I think that reforming Islam has to start with the individual. Just like myself, I've already reformed Islam by not becoming a Muslim. I went a step further from reforming Islam because I really wanted to merge the two to see how I could work with Islam and science and reconcile where the facts met the fiction. I realized I couldn't because I'm not a hypocrite. But there is a middle ground where you could reform it by your own self and feel that in a way you are just balancing it and doing what you can to make the heaven that you are promised and the virgins to make this life meaningful, as well as to make the heaven without actually breaking the law of the land. This is why I want Nigeria to be a fully secular country. This is why I'm pushing for that referendum. It has to be a fully secular country, but we have to ask the Muslims, what choice would they make? Do they want full heaven, the full delusion, or they want to make use of this only life they will ever have to make sense of it by allowing others to live freely within the country? So it's up to Muslims. This is what I'm saying. You can't, in our lifetime, I don't think we can touch those holy books. We can't edit them. We can't reform them, but we can reform Muslims. And this is a task that has to be done. And they have to take the assignment for themselves to start.
Yeah. Amazing, amazing. Guys, this has been such an enlightful conversation. I appreciate each and every one of you for spending your time with us. Thank you for taking part in this conversation. Keep fighting the good fight. Mr. Mubarak, go well, travel safe, and when connect with us again when you are settled on that side, and let's keep fighting this fight together. Take care, guys, and stay skeptical, and we'll see you on the other side.